Back in 2014, I was just a young G in middle school. There weren't that many things going on. I'm pretty sure all I was doing was playing Black Ops 3 on the PS4, and I was watching regular show on Cartoon Network. I also remember bringing my 3DS to gym class and playing Pokemon Y with my friends on the basketball court. I remember one day at lunch I saw people playing FNAF on their phones, but my dumbass thought it was some new kind of platformer game or something because the rectangles representing the cameras looked like levels in some kind of overworld. Just out of curiosity, I asked my homie Aaron if I could play, and he was already on night 5. Soon as I put the headphones on with the title screen, I realized what I was in for. A horror game. I didn't even make it to 2 AM, I don't even think. That's what I would say if I knew about FNAF when it came out. You see, growing up, my family and we were all Amish, so I went to a school completely off of the grid. I'm talking in the middle of fucking nowhere, like some Courage the Cowardly Dog type shit. If y'all watched my recent videos, I just completed the main trilogy and it was remarkable, so I want to talk about it. In Five Nights at Freddy's, you play as a security guard named Mike Schmidt. Oh, my bad. I meant to say Schmidt. Not sure what's wrong with my microphone there. Anyway, your job seemingly is to watch the inside of the building for any thieves or intruders in an old abandoned Chuck E. Cheese pizza type shit restaurant. But since it's a horror game, you know that there's a twist. So for context, the creator of the game, Scott Cawthon, published a game called Chipper & Sons Lumber Company long before he made Five Nights at Freddy's. Don't worry y'all, I'm actually going somewhere with this. The game had these stiff badger-looking anthropomorphic characters who look like they just popped a molly right before you loaded up their game. Chipper & Sons didn't receive very much success because people criticized Scott for making the characters too creepy in Uncanny Valley. So for a brief bit, Scott was discouraged. He had a family to feed and he was getting desperate for cash. He was considering giving up on programming games entirely, but then it hit him. What if he made a game using those criticisms as fuel to develop an indie horror game? That's what spawned the idea for FNAF. So anyway, like I said, your job is to monitor the pizzeria, but the animatronics get quirky during your 6-hour night shift. The supervisor, who doesn't have a name, so I'll just call him the phone guy, informs you on the first night that if the characters catch you, they'll stuff you into an animatronic suit casing because they apparently won't recognize you as a person, but instead as a metal endoskeleton without its costume on. Because the suits are filled with electrical components and crosswires, they'll kill you. Whoever the managers are, they kinda remind me of military recruiters because for some reason when you went through the whole hiring process, they didn't actually tell you what you would really be doing and what risks actually came with the job. The problem lies in the fact that you aren't given any weapon or the ability to actually move. In most of the indie horror games back in 2014, Amnesia, Slender, SCP, you would just turn 180 degrees and run off if you saw anything off-putting or unnatural. But in FNAF, all you can do is sit in your chair and hope the animatronics don't get to you. To sweeten the deal, you're given a camera system to keep tabs on the 4 characters, and you can operate 2 light switches to see if the animatronics are about to walk into your office. And you have 2 red buttons to close the doors on their ugly-ass bitch-ass faces. Speaking of their ugly-ass mugs, let's dissect them in their habits and behaviors. Up first is the main character Freddy. I don't have a nickname for him since he gave me the least amount of trouble in my playthrough. He's the most stealthy of the 4, and he's the most convoluted when it comes to his AI and movements. When you hear him laugh at my awful jokes, it means that he's moving. He can't backtrack, so you have to play your cards carefully when he's active. He only comes online starting on night 3, and he can skip having the visible PNG animation when you use your light to view the hallway. He likes using the right route. Chica, who I nicknamed Sombra, likes to use the right side to try to attack you. I nicknamed her Sombra because she's the only girl in the cast, and I imagine that she's the one who disables the cameras when you look at them for too long, so I attributed that to Sombra's ult in Overwatch. I'm most likely wrong that she does it, and it may just be an even more sinister presence that turns the cameras off, but that's just my headcanon. Bonnie, who I nicknamed Trickster for Kids, likes to take the left route towards your office. I swear, this character might be black with the way he squares up at the cameras. I swear, look at how menacing and how ready to throw hands he looks. Either that or he's just trying to contact you regarding your car's extended warranty. Nigga, you used that joke in your gameplay already. Shut the fuck up, past Bob King. I never said you could leave the basement. Sorry about that, y'all. But yeah, Trickster for Kids is interesting because he could skip over rooms to get to your office. He's also the most scary of the four according to Scott Cawthon, and I could see why. He's the one who's holding a guitar in the show stage camera, which makes me worry that he could use it as a weapon. There's also the reason I mentioned earlier with his nerve-wracking poses in the cameras, and the scariest part about him is his missing eyebrows. There's just something about him that pushes the envelope for Uncanny Valley. Foxy, who I nicknamed Kiriko, and yes, I know that's a Japanese girl's name, but just hear me out. I nicknamed him that because in Overwatch, Kiriko's Fox doesn't have a name, and if you watch my gameplay, Foxy's the character who sprints down the left hallway, just like how Kiriko's ult makes you faster. So the nickname just made sense. But yeah, Kiriko will try to bum rush you if you don't watch him on the camera. The best way to shut him down is by keeping the camera on him when you're not using the cameras, since the camera will remain toggled in the room that you had last been looking at. Which brings me to my next game mechanic, the power. And I'm not talking about the magical keyboard off a regular show. For some reason, the pizzeria runs on Energizer batteries or something, because the power in your office depletes at an almost impossible rate. I'm not even joking, I've seen Motorola's last longer than this building. I'm not sure how this place even functions during the day. As y'all know, I live in Florida and I've had backup generators during hurricanes last way longer than the power here. Anyway, anything you use, the doors, the lights, even the cameras will utilize power, so you need to be mindful with what you're doing, especially in the later nights, since the power depletes faster. Although I'm not sure if the main character is just a masochist, or if he's really desperate for cash, or if he has cerebral dysfunction, or all of the above, but I've no clue why on earth he returns for another night. I wouldn't have even left a 2-week notice, I would have dipped after night 1. But yeah, when you have a power outage, Freddy will show up on the left side and play the last song you'll ever hear, unless you were clever enough or lucky enough to make it all the way to 5 AM. The best part about the first game is how different each night is. Kiriko will get more aggro, so you can bait out his Kitsune rush by not monitoring him and only focusing on Freddy, keeping him on the main show stage in the later nights, then flipping back to Kiriko once you think it's been a while to get him to use his ult. Or if you want, you can wait until Freddy gets right next to your door, and then focus on Kiriko by shutting the right door every time you want to check up on him. Either way you want to go about it is up to you, but the game doesn't hold your hand or tell you to try these techniques. It's really rewarding and it makes you feel like you're cooking when you discover these tricks without any outside help. In some cases, these strats can get you through nights 6 and 7, but don't take that from me as I haven't finished those nights. And once you complete your 5th night, you'll receive a check for $120. Yeah, you risked your life for $120. You know, Walmart stays hiring, Mickey D's, Dollar Tree. I seriously don't get why this guy stayed after night 2, and that's being generous. Five Nights at Freddy's also had genius sound design. Upon loading in, you're greeted to what's called diegetic sound. These are noises that would actually be audible if you were in the main character's shoes, like the fan or the luminescent light overhead or the doors closing on either side of him. Non-diegetic sounds are the ones that you wouldn't actually hear in real life, like the lights to the security doors not working, or even the animatronic caution light sound when they appear in the hallways. Some noises can give you an indication of where the animatronics are located, or give you a hint that they're on the move, like with the kitchen pots and pans being thrown about, which notifies you that Somber is cooking up a nice Mexican pizza in the kitchen, or Freddy's chuckle, which identifies that Freddy is approaching. Other sounds will attempt to distract you or just be extraneous altogether, like Kiriko singing his Dum Dum Give Me Gum Gum song, or the random haunted ambience that you'll hear. These sounds are supposed to muddy the player's senses, but they have no meaning, so they lose their effectiveness from a gameplay perspective if the player is seasoned to the game. Either way, they're still an amazing touch to the overall atmosphere. If you want to watch a much more in-depth explanation to why the sound design is so masterful, I'll leave a link in the description to Scruffy's video. It has over 10 million views, and considering you've clicked on my video and you've made it this far in the video, please like and subscribe. You've likely already seen his video, but it will be in the description anyway. My overall Five Nights at Freddy's experience was a treat for sure. The lore with the missing children on the walls gave me Water News vibes from Monsters Incorporated. I'll go over the true monster behind those crimes when I go over FNAF 3. And it's also wild how the Freddy Fazbear Company tried to sweep the incident under the rug, quite literally and figuratively. But for now, I give FNAF a solid perfect 10 out of 10. The 4 animatronics are really expressive in the cameras. Freddy is that one wildcard who keeps you on your toes. His AI is unique, and it really feels like he's adaptive to the player's inputs, which makes the game feel like you're playing chess against him, especially on night 5. Don't sleep on the other 3 either, especially Kiriko. If you're not monitoring him for 10 to 15 seconds, he will punish you. I feel like Kiriko is that one character that Scott added in to prevent the player from sitting idle and doing nothing. So after Five Nights at Freddy's dropped, YouTube was at its peak with new content creators. I think it was like a month after the game dropped. It could have been even sooner. I know y'all will correct me in the comments. But people like Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, Corey, even Dashy Games made gameplays on it. Scott was originally going to drop the demo to Five Nights at Freddy's in the fall that year, but instead he decided to surprise everyone and release the whole entire sequel at that time instead of just, the demo. He released the whole entire game.
Hello? Hello? Well, if you're hearing this, then chances are you've made a very poor career choice.
Five Nights at Freddy's 2 took the previous game but turned it on its head, because this time you don't get any doors to shut. Instead, there are these 2 vents that the animatronics can use to close in on you. There's also a dark linear hallway directly in front of you that some of the animatronics will use to try to attack you. The employers still haven't learned their lesson of not explaining the details of what the job entails to you, and they reduced the paycheck down by $19.50. The gameplay loop is very overwhelming when you're new to the game, but it loses its complexity once you're used to it. The problem I had with it was the lack of difficulty. All it is Music Box Simulator. You really don't need to use the cameras since you can hear the vent noises and you have a flashlight to see if the animatronics are right in front of you in the hallway. Freddy during my playthrough wasn't much of a threat either, which was a misread if I've ever seen one. After all, Freddy is supposed to be the main antagonist of the entire game. To combat the animatronics, you're given an empty Freddy mask to trick the animatronics, but it won't help against Kiriko or the puppet. Speaking of the characters, let's have a lightning round to explain what they do and how to counter them. The old animatronics from the first game, Withered Freddy, Withered Tricks Are for Kids, Withered Sombra, and Withered Kiriko, all will show up in the hallway. All you have to do is use the mask for Tricks Are for Kids, Sombra, and Freddy, but Kiriko, you have to flash him. I mean with the flashlight, not like that, you furries. Toy variant characters are Toy Freddy, Toy Tricks Are for Kids, and Toy Sombra. There isn't a Toy Kiriko, but I'll get to the Mangle in a second since they are arguably the most convoluted character in the entire pizzeria. Toy Freddy shows up in the hallway and he looks like he's been carb loading or something because he's been putting on extra pounds since the last game. You can use the mask to shut him down, but the way he creeps up on you, I'll admit, was pretty creepy. Toy Tricks Are for Kids and Toy Sombra will sneak through both of the vents. They also get countered by the mask, but you have to be cognizant of the vent lights and spot them before they have the chance to get you. Failure to notice them will result in your untimely demise. The last few characters are the Puppet, the Mangle, and Balloon Boy. The Puppet will get angry with you if you don't wind up the music box. Balloon Boy will disable your flashlight if he gets into your office, but he will stand in front of you instead of jump scare you. To counter him, use the mask when you see him in the left vent. He's the most annoying character in the entire building because he won't shut the fuck up and he's always laughing at your suffering. The Mangle is the most interesting character because he makes police chatter noise everywhere he goes, and he doesn't have a full body, which means he travels through the ceilings like a spider. He's probably my favorite character because the police chatter makes him the easiest animatronic to track, plus he has the most unique and badass design. Just like Balloon Bitch, the way to counter him is by putting on the mask once you see him in the right vent, but like I said, he makes police chatter, so he's really easy to hear. There are also the Phantom animatronics, but I never encountered any of them. The same can be said about Golden Freddy from the first game. I never saw him either, but I still found them intriguing. So Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was my least favorite game in the original trilogy because of the gameplay loop. Like I alluded to earlier, the game should have been renamed to Five Nights at the Music Box or Five Nights at Tricks Are for Kids, because he actually showed up more than Freddy did in my gameplay. Link in the description. I'm sorry y'all, I had to do a shameless plug. The plot was also confusing because the phone guy seemingly died in the first game, but now he returns in the sequel. But if FNAF 2 happens before the first game, that doesn't explain how the old animatronics are back. I didn't get it. I'll have to watch The Game Theorist or something, maybe it will make sense. I apologize if y'all were hoping I would explain the first 3 games' timelines and plots, but I'm not that kind of YouTuber. I'm simply viewing these games from a gameplay standpoint, and that's it. The atmosphere and audio was top notch again. For example, the ambient music when an animatronic enters your office, or the music box music. The vent noises keep the player engaged, but they also make it so that the cameras were irrelevant. I still think the first game had the best audio and atmosphere, but this game was still pretty good. Overall, I give FNAF 2 a solid 8 out of 10. I just wanted Freddy to be more of a threat since it was his game after all. The music box was cool at first, but it got old real quick. But the animatronics were varied enough to keep things intriguing, and the atmosphere and ambience was kinetic enough to horrify you. The plot started to get convoluted in the game, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it was what sparked MatPat and Scott Cawthon to go back and forth with each other, which was pretty fun to watch over the years. In Five Nights at Freddy's 3, you work as a fake security guard in a horror-themed attraction of the unsolved mysteries behind FNAF. The catch is the mystery is actually Springtrap himself, who disguises himself as the Golden Tricks Are for Kids bunny during the daytime to fool everybody, and once it's your shift, he tries to kill you. Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is like the first 2 games but on crack in terms of plot drama and difficulty in the gameplay. Springtrap is the only animatronic that can kill you, and he's fast as fuck, especially when you have a ventilation error, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So in FNAF 3, you have a wide ass door on your left side, which leaves you feeling exposed, and you have a vent directly behind you, which you can seal at least. But 2 rooms lead directly to that vent, so you gotta be on your P's and Q's. The building is decrepit and archaic, since it's the same FNAF original game building. Or at least I think. I could be wrong. Please let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. I know y'all like to correct me. Cough cough. My Pokemon video. But anyway, because the building is fucked up, the ventilation, cameras, and audio wiretaps will have errors all the time throughout your nights there. But there isn't a power limit system like in the first 2 games. The thing that sets this game apart from the first 2 games is the fact that you actually have to use the cameras to keep Springtrap on lock. You get to use an audio lure, which sounds like a child, and since Springtrap is apparently like EDP, I mean all his crimes were targeted towards children, so maybe we should call Skeeter Jean or Gideon to come lock him up or something. But anyway, you manipulate Springtrap's AI to move him to any desired room to keep him at bay. But if you use the cameras for too long, you run the risk of encountering the Phantom animatronics. And just like how we did with FNAF 2, Let's have a lightning round with all of them. Phantom Balloon Boy is the easiest one to explain, so I'll go over him first. He will have a chance to show up on any of the rooms, but to counter him, all you have to do is swap to another camera or turn the camera screen off. Failure to react quick enough will cause him to jump scare you, causing a ventilation error, and the character will hyperventilate. Phantom Sombra will show up on camera 7 in the arcade machine screen. To counter her, all you have to do is look at another camera or turn the camera off, just like Balloon Boy. Only difference is she will jump scare you when you look to the left side of your office, triggering a ventilation error. Phantom Mangle will spawn in on camera 4, and just like with Balloon Boy and Sombra, if you don't swap the cameras fast enough, she will cause an audio error rather than jump scare you. She will also cause a loud, distorted static sound that will scare you. It's best just to ignore camera 4 at all costs, especially because I'm about to explain a really nice strategy to get you through all of the nights, which I used in my playthrough. Again, link will be in the description. The last Phantom animatronic found in the cameras is the Phantom Puppet. They'll spawn in on camera 8. If you can't swap to another camera in time, they'll show up in your office, blocking your view and preventing you from using your cameras or your maintenance panel for 17 seconds. They will also cause a weird high-pitched sound to play while they're in your office. It's best to avoid camera 8 at all costs. The last 2 Phantom animatronics will show up randomly in your office. I'll go over Phantom Kiriko first since he's easier to explain. Phantom Kiriko will be T-posing on the left side of your office when you're using your cameras for too long, or when you've been looking to the right side of the office for too long. His spawn rate chances are actually a little rare, but if you happen to see him before you have fully turned to view your maintenance panel, to keep him from jump scaring you, just turn your movement back towards the camera in a slow motion. If you turn too quick and he happens to be there, he will jump scare you, causing a ventilation and camera error. The final Phantom animatronic, you guessed it, is Phantom Freddy. He will tiptoe in his Jordans across your window, and then after you see him duck down, he will have a chance to jump scare you as each second passes. To counter him, all you gotta do is pull up the camera and ignore him when you see him. You can actually get jump scared by 2 animatronics at the exact same time, but this only works with the puppet in both phantoms that spawn in your office. Once you've seen any of the phantoms, they can't jump scare you again for the rest of the night. So a good strat people use specifically for Phantom Kiriko is if it's early on in the night and they know Springtrap isn't nearby, they'll get Phantom Kiriko's jump scare out of the way. I know that sounds like a lot to remember, and I haven't really got into Springtrap's AI, but when you put it all into practice, it becomes easier. Here's a really easy strat that helps me complete night 5, and it works for all the other nights as well. Keep in mind you kind of have to get lucky with the nightmare mode, because Springtrap may not listen to your audio cues. But what I did was I did my best to get Springtrap to camera 2, and once I lured him there with the audio, I shut the camera 2 vent. The idea of doing that forces Springtrap to take the route across your window, and he'll have an animation where he T-poses in front of you. So once he's at that spot, and all you have to do is get him back to camera 2 and rinse and repeat until the night is over. If you see him not in camera 2 or outside your window, don't panic. You can still track his movements by listening. If you hear what sounds like a man struggling to breathe, it means he's moving through the rooms. But if you hear a vent sound similar to FNAF 2, it means he's moving in the vents. And if you hear this creepy ambient music, it means that Springtrap is in the bottom half of the map, specifically camera 5. When the sound gets louder, it means that he's in camera 2, 3, or camera 4. Keep in mind that the audio cues don't work on Springtrap while he's in the vents because he won't hear them. So the only counter is to shut the vent that he's in, forcing him to take another route. Also keep in mind that Phantom Freddy will cause the ambient music as well, which can confuse the player when it comes to pinpointing Springtrap's exact location. But when that happens, it's best just to pull the cameras up and track him down. Anyway, I give FNAF 3 a solid 9 out of 10. The game is pretty underrated because instead of getting hunted down by inanimate objects, you're being targeted by a person. So the stakes are personal. It has that horror slasher vibe going on. I didn't dive into the Easter eggs or the minigames after the nights where you follow the purple animatronic and the purple guy dismantles all the animatronics because, like I alluded to earlier, I'm strictly reviewing the games off of how I enjoyed their gameplay. The most frustrating element about the gameplay in FNAF 3, in my opinion, was actually the ugly yellow aesthetic. I didn't like how difficult it was to locate Springtrap on the building cameras. That's just a nitpick, but it was enough to lower the game's score down by a point. It's also lacking the special style that the first game had, and the Springtrap jump scares weren't scary. The Phantom animatronics, especially the puppet, were aggravating and not in a good way. I also didn't like the luck factor that came with the more complicated nights, because sometimes Springtrap would just ignore the audio cues altogether. Either way though, it was still really memorable, and it left me with a lasting impression for sure. What's going on, everyone? I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I hope I did a somewhat passable job at reviewing the original 3 games. If y'all have any suggestions of what the next trilogy review should be, let me know. I'm thinking of going over the Sly trilogy, but I just want to say, I think the way that I was going over them was wrong. Originally I was making the game reviews to each game individually. If you really look at one of my first videos on the channel ever, it's a Sly review of Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, but I don't think I did the game justice because the audio was lacking and I was using like screen recorded B-roll footage. I don't like that video. I kept it on the channel just as a reminder of like what I don't want to have my videos look like, but yeah, I'm definitely gonna remake that video for sure. The plot to the Sly games aren't cryptic like how they are with the FNAF series, so the trilogy review for the 3 games is definitely going to be longer. But you know, as always, I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.